What we're about to talk about might completely change everything you thought you knew about Area 51. Ever since World War II, what's really been going on there has remained a mystery. In this video, we'll take a look at leaked information and the facts we have so far. Make sure to share what you know about this place in the comments. And if there's a particularly strange fact, I'll make a separate video just about that. It all started right here, in the small town of Roswell, New Mexico, back in 1947. Just 2 years after the end of World War II, a mysterious event took place. Today, get ready to uncover the true face of Area 51. On July 8, 1947, people were whispering to each other all over town. In that small community, something completely unfamiliar had happened. A flying object had crashed near the town. That was the claim. And in the days that followed, the rumors made headlines. Extraterrestrial beings captured. So, do aliens really exist? After a while, those UFO rumors were replaced with a new explanation. Weather balloons launched to study atmospheric conditions. But here's the question. If such balloons explode at high altitudes all over the world every year, why did only the one over Roswell cause such a stir? Why was this the one everyone talked about? The incident was never fully investigated. Or maybe, just maybe, some things were hidden on purpose. Since that day, the whole story has remained nothing more than a rumor. In 1947, Jason Marcel was working as an intelligence officer at the Roswell Air Base. He was one of the first people to investigate the incident. If he hadn't met Stan Fitman in 1978, maybe no one would even know about Roswell today. There was no real reason for him to lie. Knowing that most people would call him crazy, why would he tell such a story? A few other witnesses shared similar accounts, but the case was closed, and to this day, it still remains a mystery. Now let's take a look at the strange part. After the 1947 incident, the area was immediately investigated by the US government. But shortly after, the local residents and farmers just went back to their normal lives. What's interesting is that exactly 2 months later, in September 1947, the CIA was founded. While the FBI was responsible for domestic security, the CIA was established to gather intelligence about foreign affairs. In fact, it had been operating under the name OSS since 1942. But in 1947, just 2 months after the incident, it officially became the CIA as we know it today. While everyone was told it was just a weather balloon, did the physicist and intelligence officer working at Area 51 confirming it was a flying saucer actually validate the rumors? Was the CIA trying to cover it all up? So much so that there were no fragments of the crashed object, nor any trace of the incident. It was as if everything had been hidden, moved to a secure location, and was being kept there. After the Roswell incident, the United States established a site near Groom Lake, 153 kilometers north of Las Vegas, to manage any new and unusual situations in favor of the government. This place became known as Area 51. Those who work there call it the Land of Dreams. The area is heavily guarded with strict controls. It's equipped with sensors that detect any approaching vehicle. The entire site is monitored by a mysterious team of people, numerous cameras, and is designed to prevent any security threats coming from the air. There must be a reason why it's so heavily guarded. But what you see is just the tip of the iceberg. 90%, or even more, of Area 51 is underground, where the most secretive elements are said to be stored. Technological weapons, living or non-living extraterrestrial organisms, or other advanced technologies. For example, in this photo, you can see an underground structure. However, we don't know how deep it goes. In 1974, a satellite called Skylab 4 accidentally photographed satellite images near Nevada, where Area 51 is located. Here is a portion taken from that photo, the first clear known image of Area 51. It's unknown who leaked this photo, but the leak itself clearly shows that someone was suspicious about what's going on there. It is said that many unidentified objects, either fallen from space or discovered on Earth, are examined in underground facilities at Area 51, which is said to be enormous. And these are just what we know. Of course, this may sound strange. A massive underground research center, aliens, secret areas. You might say, who's making this up and who believes any of it?
A former employee.
Former employee.
I was let go on a medical discharge about a week ago, and I've kind of been running across the country. Oh man, I don't know where to start. I started getting.
In some way, something knocked us off the air, and we're on a backup system now.
The government or?
I don't know.
You should know that, like him, many others have also spoken about this place. For example, Bob Lazar. In 1989, he claimed to have worked at a site called S4 near Area 51 and said that research was being conducted on aliens at Area 51.
There are 9, and their shapes vary. I only got to do a close inspection on one of them. The others I just briefly saw, and they pretty much varied. I give everything nicknames there. The one I worked on was kind of sleek looking, and I gave it the name the Sport Model. There was one that looked like a Jello mold. There was one that looked like a top hat. There was a disc that was turned up on its side, and it had a large projectile hull with the metal bent outwards on it. I can only surmise they were testing it to see if a projectile could penetrate it. Of course, it's just a guess on my part, but for the most part, they were pretty varied.
Some video recordings related to this have been released online. In fact, some information and videos were also revealed in WikiLeaks documents. Bob Lazar even shared an interesting detail about how these spacecraft operate. According to him, some of these vehicles were made from an element with an atomic weight of 115. Element 115 allowed the craft to counteract gravity.
It produces a gravity wave, which is similar to the gravity wave that the Earth produces. However, the craft phase shifts the wave. In other words, it turns the wave not really in an opposite polarity, but something to that effect, where it will work against the natural gravity wave of the Earth, and it produces lift in that effect.
In other words, the operating principle of the beings' vehicles on Earth was partially understood. This principle explained how they could remain stable in the air. But interestingly, element 115 was discovered in 2003, exactly 14 years after Bob Lazar described it. Bob Lazar still stands by his claim today, but he no longer wants to talk about any of it. Now it's time to learn the possible truths about Area 51. It is forbidden for any civilian to approach the facility beyond a certain distance. Warning signs are posted in many places. If you ignore them and try to enter, you may face a shoot-to-kill order issued by the government. Most of the vehicles entering and exiting are unmarked. This place, hidden for over 60 years, was officially confirmed by the CIA in 2013, acknowledging its existence. Here, centered around Groom Lake, is a 1,100 square kilometer no-fly zone. Only authorized personnel can enter. No one else can get inside or observe it from afar. This is the secretive Area 51. Looking at all this, why was such a secure place established? What are the real purposes behind it? In 2013, some secret documents were revealed regarding this. According to the information obtained, the purpose of establishing this center was the Project Aquatone. This is actually a project related to an aircraft, but not just any ordinary plane. During the years when the Soviet Union proudly displayed its nuclear power to the world, America was secretly tracking Russia and carrying out this project to prevent future threats. The U-2 aircraft could fly much higher than regular planes, at about 70,000 feet, and had a range of nearly 5,000 kilometers. Back then, the only way to avoid being detected by satellites was to fly at high altitudes. This allowed them to find out what the Russians were doing. However, the aircraft needed to be tested. A very suitable location in Nevada was chosen for this purpose. It was a flat and rugged terrain, exactly what they were looking for to conduct tests. Moreover, the surrounding mountains helped keep the area hidden. Construction began in 1955. Hangars, administrative buildings, rest areas, and all the necessary minimum facilities were built. By the 1960s, Russia had detected and successfully shot down the U-2 aircraft. The U-2 was no longer effective. A new plane needed to be developed, and so it happened. They decided to create a project for a faster, slimmer, and higher-flying aircraft. This was a project for a stealth aircraft called Rainbow. This new project needed to be tested first. However, the plane had to be secretly transported from the factory in California to Nevada. If the Russians tracked it, it would ruin all their plans. They did this by hiding it inside these massive crates. You might even know that there were many rumors about alien spacecraft being transported to Area 51 based on these images. Maybe it was these very talks that spread by word of mouth and increased the popularity of aliens. However, the cargo being transported actually belonged to a plane designed to defeat the Russians. The stealth aircraft was produced in the hangars at Area 51, maybe even much more than that. America's war had always been with Russia. They were constantly engaged in a secret battle in war technology. Russia was always ahead in space research, and America couldn't accept that. The establishment of Area 51 and every plan made there were primarily aimed at the Russians from the very beginning. Contrary to what we think, aliens were just a waste of time for the American government back then. Their main focus was on the Russians. We still don't clearly know what's going on there, but a curious person who wanted to find out started a poll on Facebook titled Storm Area 51 They can't stop all of us. So far, 1.4 million people have joined, and they say, if we do the Naruto run, we can dodge their bullets. Let's go see the aliens. By the way, the so-called Naruto run is named after an anime. Many celebrities also shared posts saying they would join the event. We know these people wouldn't actually do it, but what if they did? Of course, since the situation was starting to get serious, some statements had to be made. They said, we'll do whatever is necessary to protect the area. Rather than the presence of aliens or mysterious beings in Area 51, when we look back at our research, the idea that the US was conducting secret operations against Russia or similar states seems much more realistic. However, it's also possible that they put the spotlight on Russia to conceal the research they're actually conducting on extraterrestrial beings in the background. Who knows? Do you think this place was built for extraterrestrial beings, or to take precautions against other nations? Be sure to share your thoughts in the comments. And if this video gets a good number of likes, we'll release another one featuring real footage and audio recordings of paranormal events from Area 51. The truth may be hidden, but it's never lost. Don't forget to subscribe. Take care of yourself.